What's next on the agenda?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like maybe half of these problems would be more or less resolved if the right people had possession of firearms.
Why, you really dragged that out. What's wrong with you?
I was waiting for you to interrupt me, and you didn't. And I was like, it's gonna keep going then. It's gonna keep going. No, I actually don't necessarily believe that. There's a lot of gray area, but I did want to ask you guys, I guess, like, what is your take? And because, let me preface this with, and this is like not a wild left turn, but I was thinking about it lately. And, you know, the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms, right? But almost like the Bible, and I'm definitely not comparing the Constitution to the Bible, okay? I'm just saying, a lot of people, they take parts that cater to them, and they, like, put those under a microscope, or they promote those. So, my point is, the rest of that amendment is actually, and I hope I don't get canceled for this, but this is true, is actually to the right to bear arms in case, you know, the people need to overthrow a corrupt government. Now, that's not word for word. Do you know the word for word, George?
The Second Amendment? Or
yeah.
Just,
No, but that's kind of what it is, what I said. So, the point is,
the Second Amendment says this: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Right, so most people are only taking that bit, like the people should have a right to bear arms.
The last
right?
part.
And then they're like,
yeah,
gun happy, and then now the rest of the world laughs at America because we have so many school shootings, so many cops killing people because they're armed or because they're not. And it's just like, everyone's getting a gun. And, I mean, the only thing you need to do to get a gun is pass a background check. And I guess for some people, that's not that easy. I get that. But for those people that can't pass a background check, it's probably even easier for them to obtain a weapon without going through the system and having your name attached to a serial number and a gun, right? So, I guess the question is, for both of you, in a sense, I mean, should everybody have a gun, and sort of like why or why not?
Want to go ahead first, Chris?
No, I'm gonna let you go on this one.
All right. Yeah, I mean.
Also, before you do say anything, though, I do apologize because you brought up about the statistics against like the world, like school shootings. So, the United States since 2009 has had 288 school shootings. The second highest is Canada with 2. France with 2. Germany with 1. Japan 0. Italy 0. UK 0.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going like
So
someone had a
are,
negative one. I was like, what is this?
No, yeah, so those are
okay, so yeah, they're
statistics.
wildly, you know, not even comparable. So,
Yeah,
but then
right.
again, not to cut George off, but like, it's not that the little kids pass a background check and the students pass a background check and they bring a gun and they're angry and they shoot it up. Like, obviously, that's what I mean by gray area. There's probably home issues out the wazoo. His access to firearms is also a red flag. You know, the anger issues. So, like, I'll say my piece after you guys go. But, I mean, those statistics are wild.
All right, yeah. So, I mean, really, so people owning firearms. So, I think anybody who is willing to carry a firearm and has no intent to be a criminal, has no criminal record, and is willing to use that firearm to help others, to defend themselves and those they love, should carry, which I believe is most people in the U.S. I mean, you just take a look at the statistics already, you know. There's about 50,000 gun-related crimes or deaths in America every year, and over half of those are suicides, right? But now, on the opposite side of that, at least every year on the low side, since for however many years already, at least 400,000 people use guns to defend or protect life every year, and that's on a low. It's 400 million or 400,000 on a low and 3 million on a high. So that many guns are used to protect people, as opposed to the 50,000, in reality 23,000 people who use their guns for homicides, which are mostly due to gang-related activity in the inner cities where they have the most gun control, right? So, I mean, it just looks like that the places with the most gun control are where the shootings happen the most. Like Alexia said, school shootings, right? School shootings, it's already against the law to bring any gun into a school. It's a gun-free zone. So criminals would target these soft targets because they are gun-free zones. That's where most shootings happen. So
let me ask you, if you were in a school, would you want to bring your gun into school?
Yeah, I would definitely want to have a way to defend myself in any situation, especially being in a gun-free zone where that's such a huge target for shooters, or even not shooters, even people with knives or people with, you know, like a hammer, an axe, you know, they could use so many weapons, and the gun is just a great equalizer, you know?
But it's a gun-free zone.
Let me ask you something, George. Have you ever been in a fight in your life?
Yep.
How many?
Probably like one.
One fight?
Yeah. Nothing too serious.
And where? Okay, and where have you spent most of your life growing up?
Well, I guess kind of people would consider like not a great area, like almost like the hood almost, but not really. Weird, like just pretty much in a city, you know.
Let's get specific. What city?
What city? Well,
okay, so people would consider that the hood. And this is by no means trying to like knock you. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. But in comparison to New York, it is like a playground. So that being said, you said you've been in one fight in your life, and you have the belief that if you bought a gun to protect others on a on a gun-free school zone area, that you would be able to do so. Now let me ask you, when you got into your fight, did you have a game plan on how that fight was going to go down?
Nope.
You were pretty thrown off, right? Yeah. There's a quote by Mike Tyson that says, everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the face. So, as much as you want to theorize that you bringing a gun onto a school campus to protect in the likely event that someone else may bring a gun, me personally, I think that's part of the problem. Because are you taking into consideration how the other people may feel on campus now that you are someone that has a gun? Because how are people able to judge that you're a well-intent and good-mannered person? Because you said that before, that anybody who has good intention should be able to carry a gun. But I don't think I have to tell you that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, correct?
Sure. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, pretty much like if you get a gun through the legal means, that's pretty much already, you know, you pass a background check, all right? No criminal record, so that's a pretty good start, right? Now we know that most criminals get their weapons and guns illegally anyway. So now maybe some people won't know that you got yours legally, but then again, we have concealed carry for a reason. No one will know you're carrying at all. So they would have no fear, they would have no worry if no one knows that you're carrying, right? But until the moment that something happens and you use it to defend them, then the perception changes, right? So
side note, what's also a little crazy is, like, unlike the rest of the planet, America has different rules and laws per state. So the border lines change within, like, you know, each state, and there are obviously 50 states, well, 48, like, on this body of land, let's say. So in Europe, for example, the countries there are smaller and they're closer, and okay, they're different laws because they're different countries. We're one country and the laws are different even by county. So, I mean, George is talking about Pennsylvania, right? Like, Pennsylvania has a law where you're allowed to conceal carry. New York, at least New York City, you absolutely cannot. I guess even if you pass a background check, right, there's like several other steps, and even then you're not allowed to carry.
No, you can carry now. The Supreme Court already declared that unconstitutional, that New York didn't allow their citizens to carry. They can carry now, but New York has passed a lot of restrictions where you can't carry in certain areas, you can't carry in public transport, which is what most people use anyway. So the majority of law-abiding citizens don't carry because...
Yeah, because how are you going to carry it when you want, but then if you have to take the train to go to whatever, you can't carry it in the in-between, so it's like, then you can't carry it at all?
Yep, pretty much.
I just want to bring something to your attention, because you were saying that in the states where gun laws allow people to carry guns, where more people basically are able to carry weapons, you said 400,000 to 3 million people actually use guns to protect people. But in the states where people have to illegally get guns, that's where most of the crimes take place, correct?
It's not just where they illegally get them. It's like, yeah, so there's a lot of places, right? The most gun crimes happen in the areas with the most gun restrictions, right? So they would get guns illegally and then eventually commit those crimes in those areas where guns are most restricted, because they know that not a lot of people are going to have guns to defend themselves. Really, nobody, because the law-abiding citizens, by definition, will obey the law and they will not carry. So the only people they have to worry about are the police, which aren't always very reliable.
That makes sense.
Well, can I then bring this to your attention? In Texas and Florida, the gun laws are a lot more lax. People are allowed to conceal and carry. Did you know that most shootings happen in those places? In the places where most people have guns? Not in the places where people don't have access to guns. It's actually the place where people can easily have access to guns where the most shootings happen.
Right, I'd have to question the validity of that statement. I'm pretty sure that the most shootings happen in places like Chicago, mostly, and New York and things like that, but mostly Chicago, where gun laws are the most strict.
I mean, I won't lie. Chicago is definitely known for its gang violence, but even in totality, with everything else, all the other states that have the lesser gun laws, Chicago has never had a school shooting. Even with that fact being there. All these other states that have had more shootings also have school shootings. Texas actually had 10. Florida had 17.
Right. Now, and of course, one school shooting is too much already, right? But school shootings are already so rare. Like, they're just extremely rare, right? Like, most of the gun violence, like I mentioned before, is due to gang violence. That's where most people die. Like, in that 23,000, I'm pretty sure something like, I don't remember exactly, but something like 85 to 90 to 98% or something of those 23,000 that die in homicides due to guns are due to gang-related violences. So school shootings are about less than, I think it's pretty much less than 1% of that. So, but also in Texas and Florida, school shootings still happen, right? Because it's a federal law that schools are gun-free zones. So as long as schools are gun-free zones, they will forever be soft targets no matter what state, right?
So let me ask you something, because you seem to want to double down that because these schools are gun-free zones, that's why these criminals target it. But we see this time and time again in the media that the majority of these individuals supposedly had mental illness, or were bullied, or picked on, or something happened in school that was overlooked. Now, with that being said, you also are trying to convey that because these school zones are not allowed to carry guns, and that's why these criminals go. Are you saying that there should be students with guns, or teachers with guns, or police on the premises with guns?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, I would say definitely, police officers, police presence is good, but definitely, a teacher should be allowed to carry firearms already. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but a recent law in Tennessee, they just passed that teachers are allowed to carry. Now, that it's going to be a couple months until that gets put into effect, so the teachers will have to go through training, gun training, safety, and everything. But once they do that, we're going to start seeing teachers carrying in schools, and and the gun crime statistics in that state will be reflected through that. So,
I mean, and don't you think that maybe a teacher could have a bad day and take it out on a student?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And don't you think the teachers already have enough on their plate dealing with about 20 to 30 students per class, and then having to prepare papers, and now they have to be a cop on top of that?
Right, so for teachers, that's already part of the job description, right? Even for me, I just started substitute teaching. That's part of my job description. Part of the job description is to protect the kids. That's first, the safety of the children. Now, if something does happen...
Yeah, but is it required for you to put your life on the line to do so?
That most teachers already do that anyways. Even if they don't, it's not, it's not their responsibility, right? But to put their lives on the line, that is. But most teachers in most school shooting situations, they do that anyways. They act as human shields. They do everything they can to keep the children safe. Now, wouldn't that be easier for them if they could have some way to defend themselves instead of just sacrificing themselves,
Well, since we're going to go on statistics here, you do know the statistics that majority of teachers are women, correct?
Yep.
And the majority of school shooters are males.
Sure.
So, do you really think these women are willing to put their lives on the line, even though they may have children and families of their own, to protect other children who are not their own? Don't you think they just might be as scared because they're coming in on a Wednesday to teach a social studies class, and now there's an AK-47 going off in the hallway? Do you really think that teacher's going to just flip a switch after going to school and teaching for 15, 20 years, and now all of a sudden she becomes Rambo?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the biological fight or flight scenario, right? So in a situation where you can't escape, you and your children can't escape in a classroom, the only option is fight. So, but for teachers, it's for their...
But fight or flight is actually not ideal for a situation like that. You would need somebody that needs to have some sense of control and situational awareness, and is actually not going to buckle under the pressure. Because fight or flight can actually get somebody else killed.
Sure.
Well, also, just like you just said, George, the fight is actually like last case. There's actually, when I've done, like safety training for like FAA regulations and like, bigger like companies, there's four steps actually, and the last one is fight. First it's like
run, hide.
Exactly, like those are the first things. So
evacuate. I
think like, not the school thing aside, this is encompassing the school shootings as well as other like gun crimes. It's sort of like, if you don't know how to operate the gun, because if the teachers get trained, there's one thing like, I've been CPR trained. You have to get that done every 2 years. You think I remember exactly how to CPR someone back to life after the first 2 weeks? You know what I'm saying? Like, just because I'm certified doesn't mean that like, I know how to CPR like a baby and how hard to press and et cetera, et cetera. But the point is like, if you have a gun and you're not prepared because you're literally not prepared, it blindsided you, what you're doing in that sense, especially for those types of people, not for you specifically, you're actually weaponizing that person even more. So someone could come attack you, they don't even have a gun, and you're carrying a gun, and you got sucker punched. You have no idea that you were getting into a fight. He sees your gun in your pants, takes it from you, and now he has a gun and you don't, and you just gave it to him. Because
I also want to state, Alexa, I apologize, but in that situation also, George, if everybody has a gun, think about it from a police officer's standpoint. How are you supposed to identify the shooter if everybody has a gun? You don't know who the shooter is. Everybody got a gun. So there may be a school shooting going around, and now you're running around with the gun looking for the shooter, and everybody thinks you're the shooter.
Oh yeah, and imagine like the students are like, no, I'm a good guy. I'm the good guy with the gun. I'm trying to help you. And he's lying, because that's what criminals do, right?
Right, yeah. So, there's a lot to unpack there, right, in those couple of sentences. But,
of course.
So, now, first of all, if the student has a gun, well, they shouldn't have in any scenario, right? The teachers should have the firearms, right? So if you see a student with a gun, it's kind of an indicator that there's something wrong here, because students shouldn't have guns in any scenario, right? And I guess second, there's a lot of situations, right, where even in malls, right, where people are allowed to carry, like in PA and stuff in malls. There have been shootings in malls in other states where there's constitutional carry, and some people get confused about which who just because someone's holding a gun, are they the shooter or not? But then people might get confused about that. But I've never heard any scenario where that's the case, because as a gun carrier, anybody, not even just gun carriers, but gun carriers especially, need to have situational awareness, which most people should have in the first place. So you have to be aware of your surroundings, the situation, what's going on. So if you're not sure who, just because someone has a gun doesn't mean you shoot them, right? You have to see what they're doing. Now, usually within a couple seconds, you could probably already tell who the shooter is, but if you can't, you observe it from beforehand, or you just the next
that
couple of
sounds
seconds.
easy in like a video game, right? When it's not real life.
Yes.
But if it's real life, not that I ever want you to be in a situation like that, but it sounds easy to point out and to like observe, but I don't really think it is. And so,
yeah, I mean, it only takes a couple of seconds for a situation to go from bad to worse. And especially in a school shooting situation, you have a lot of factors to take into play. Not just the shooter, but all the students, the teachers, the parents, the news. There's a lot going on. And then you also have to try and find out where the shooter is. And every passing second, somebody can be killed again and again and again.
yeah, and the more you're paying attention to your
you-
weapon and how much control you have over yourself in the situation, the less you're able to give your attention to like the students you're supposed to protect.
So yeah, I guess I don't necessarily agree with that, or I don't really agree with that. But I'm saying like Army teachers is not going to bring gun deaths to zero. It's that we don't live in a perfect world, but Army teachers and people in general that that should have firearms, like how we defined before, that will reduce gun crimes. We've seen it in many states already that have constitutional carry and everything, right? So I mean that those are just just the facts from the statistics. They will reduce gun crime, as opposed to the alternative, not arming any teachers, and there's just no option for defense. It's just kind of like I'd rather have an option to defend myself than have no option at all, right?
Well, wouldn't metal detectors be a good deterrent? And actually having armed security or police force on site, so this way the teachers can focus on their actual job, which is teaching, and their students can do what they're supposed to do, and that is learn. Instead of now you have kids who are 5 to 7 years old with bulletproof backpacks who are taught to hide beneath a school. Do you think a 5 or 6-year-old should have to deal with that? Do you think that a teacher should be willing to lay down her life and sacrifice herself on a random Thursday because someone had a bad day?
Right, again, yeah, so like if the teachers don't have the firearms, that's what they're essentially doing already, right? Now, in regards to paid security, like that's, like police officers, they're not free, right? It costs money to have armed guards, and the more you have, the more money it is. And there's a lot of school districts out there that don't have the funding for that, right? Even
Well, that sounds like a government issue.
I mean, yeah, sure, it could be, yeah, government issue, sure. But even with...
Because they make a lot more money off of weapons and bullets and ammunition.
Right, so, but even with armed guards, right, like no matter, you could have armed guards that, and metal detectors, whatever, but if someone wants to cause a lot of damage in one, like in a short amount of time, in general, having more people with more firearms will reduce the chances of that, no matter what. That's just how it works.
I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you on that. I'm thinking because most schools are built like a prison. So there are a set amount of entry points, exits, and I think if you have armed security guards that are authorized and licensed and have training with a weapon, years of training, not just a couple of months, but years that have actually been in hostile situations, you have them at every entry point, and you have metal detectors. If the school shooter does show up, hypothetically, let's say, George, for the sake of this example, you are the school shooter, you show up to the college. Well, you're going to get caught right away, because the second you go through the metal detector, unless you have a 3D printed gun, you're going to be found out. You're going to be arrested and escorted off-site, and you're going to go to prison. Or you can go in there guns blazing. But at that point, you haven't even made it inside the school. You're still outside the school, because the cops were able to take you down before so. I think that's a much better deterrent instead of throwing more guns inside of the school.
Sure, yeah, you could do that. And again, putting the money aside, say every school can afford all the security, all the metal detectors, everything around the building. Now, all someone that wants to kill people, all they have to do is just wait for kids to exit the building, and that's it. Going home, most kids they exit out of one door anyways. All the doors are closed. That's how schools work. They just wait until all the schools are out, start firing.
I get what you're saying, and I agree with that part. Because if someone wants to kill like a group of people, they're gonna do it. Even if they drive a van into a crowd of people, right?
Sure.
They're gonna do it. So it's not necessarily the guns, it's the psychopath behind it. So what I was gonna say way earlier was, I think in addition to the background checks, there needs to be some sort of psych eval. But the fallacy with that is now who's gonna create the psych eval? And then there's probably gonna be ways around it, loopholes. You can probably buy your way out of not doing it. Like, it's probably gonna be another thing. But like, psych eval, heavy. But again, humans are finicky. So like, even if I pass a psych eval and a background check, like Chris said, it's not that I had a bad day. You know, I could be going through other things throughout time, and then, not that I would, but like, weaker people would explode and probably like, you know, do things that they would never imagine themselves doing. Now, the only thing is, I don't really know if arming everybody is the answer. I do hear that like, back in the Midwest, when everybody had a gun, and their horse and their kid, everyone had a gun, there was less crime on the streets because everyone had a gun. But I think now that we're in like 2024 and this is like America, or let's even use the whole world for an example, it's sort of like before weed was legalized, you know? Like, if it was illegal, people were still doing it, and they were still smoking and buying and dealing and whatever. But then when it became legalized, a lot of like, I don't know the statistics on this, but a lot of gang members or whatever kind of lost a lot of their job or resources because it was legalized, and then they started like, there was other channels, and the point is like, society will adapt to something that they like or don't like, whatever. So when weed was illegal, there was, in a sense, I don't know if it was less or the same, but like, it was hidden and it was taboo and it was illegal, and people were still like, oh, we can only, don't let them smell it, or let's do it in the car, you know, something like that. So if guns are illegal, then people, even if they get it illegally or legally, they're still like, oh, well, I can't have it in a church, I can't have it in a school. It's still sort of like in there, you know what I mean? But if we legalize guns and we're like, oh, it's a free-for-all, do whatever you want, just like when they legalized marijuana in certain states, I think people are going to run to the gun stores, and they're going to buy it just to have it, and then there's going to be 3 guns to every man, or every person, and that's the only good thing about that, and I don't even know if I want to say that's a good thing, is that other countries are actually afraid to invade America because they know how many Americans, like not even trained army or anything, have firearms. So if they invade America, you know, you and I would be like, not today, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. That's why we're strong. Yeah, we're strong physically on the outside, but where America's weak is the mentally part. Now it's, they have to start from the inside out, right? But yeah.
Right. So there's not really a pill or a way we can fix the mental instability, and the worst part is, I think Americans now are like, they're sort of promoting mental instability or mental health, or not health. They're like, if you have a mental illness, if you have a mental problem, good, because everyone does. You know what I mean? Like, Americans are like, oh no, it's okay. It was just, you just have a mental problem. It's okay. Like, we'll solve it with therapy. We'll solve it with, we'll just call you autistic. Like, whatever. Like, they like almost promote it like it's a good thing. Yep,
it's called neurodiversity.
But they're still giving these people guns because they can. So anyway, I think my point was, I mean, if it were up to me, I would be like psych eval, but there's a bunch of holes in that one, Swiss cheese. But also, if it were legal, everyone would run to get it. So like, the illegal part is, in a sense, keeping a little bit of, saving us a little bit from chaos, in a sense. Because even like, I'm not saying you're a bad guy and I don't want you to have a gun personally, but if the choices were everyone can have a gun, including George, or no one can have a gun, including George, I would say no one. Right?
I mean, I think, to your point, Alexia, I think the same example, if you're going to go to the more extreme end of the spectrum, is nuclear weapons. Do you think the world is safer with more nuclear weapons, or if we just get rid of all nuclear weapons to begin with?
Yeah, technically, yeah, getting rid of all of them would be safest, but that's literally an impossibility. So to have them is safer. That's the only possible
answer. Let me ask you, because let me be transparent, right? I I own a gun, okay? But when you get a conceal and carry license, they're like, what's it for? Self-defense, blah, blah. Anyone could put that. And my question for you actually is, because I had to think about this when I got my license. Are you actually willing to kill somebody? I mean, if I guess that meant the safety if you were someone that you liked, like, okay, you would give that person's life for your friends. But in a sense, like, just taking it a step back into a biblical standpoint, is that what, like, God would want? So, like, answer that, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't really be able to just murder somebody. You know what I mean? Like, unless I was in imminent danger and my life was literally hanging by a thread, and, like, you know, obviously it's, I don't know, there would be a gray area in that too, but that's why I have, you know, a smaller gun that only has 22s. That's probably going to slow someone down and not kill them, but that might anger them, and there's all these other factors and blah blah blah, and, like, I'm, you know, a single female living by myself, etc., etc. But, like, if it really came down to it, if it really, really came down to it, would you be able to, or willing to, kill somebody?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not, I guess, I mean, so yeah, basically, short answer, yes. I mean, and, you know, the only time self-defense is justified, right, is if your life is in imminent danger, or if you're in danger of great bodily harm. That's the only time self-defense is legal, is allowed, right? Legal
or, like, biblical?
Both.
Where in the Bible does it say that?
Well, it's not, you know, well, I've got to find some verses, but it's basically, you know, like, if it's one life or another, your life is in danger, you're not expected to just lay it down and just let yourself die, you know?
Okay.
Like,
but again, if it was a mall shooting and the guy had an AK and he was walking the halls and you were with your friends, to put him down, you would shoot him to kill him, but he's not even looking at you. So he has to be aiming the gun at you, fired a couple at you already for it to be justified for you to kill him?
No, because just him holding a gun out, and if he's, like, there with the intent to shoot, and you would obviously, like you said, use someone with an AK with the intent to shoot in a mall, that's enough to put him down. Yeah. So that's because he already has a weapon. It's already escalated enough. It's already escalated from no weapon to weapon now, and your life, you know, lives are in danger. That's
but
when
the law then wouldn't really be like, oh, George, it was self-defense. He was facing the other way. You shot him from behind. You saved everyone, but it wasn't self-defense because you weren't in danger. So now you have to go to trial for murder.
In New York, probably. In like California, New York, the more blue states, yes, that would be the case. But in swing states or red states, that would not be the case. That would be self-defense. It'd be defense of others, and
really? So it wouldn't even go to trial?
People will try, for sure, but they probably would not go to trial. No, people would try to press charges, but it probably wouldn't go to trial in red states, no.
Probably wouldn't.
Very likely not. If someone really, really tries, maybe, but very likely not.
George, I just want to say, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but I find it very interesting for you to speak so certain about making a split decision like that without ever being in a situation like that. I think it's easy to talk about it in theory, but actually placing yourself in that situation when things are going on is a much different story. I mean, I'll share 2 stories or 3. I mean, whatever. It just that kind of illustrates certain things. I live in Queens, New York. There was a situation about a couple months ago where a passenger was on the train with a gun. He got into a fight with another individual and probably felt emboldened to have that fight because he knew I had a gun. Once he pulled out the weapon, guess what happened? The other guy took the weapon from him and shot him in the head. There's video footage of this. And the people on the train, they didn't feel safe. You see everybody screaming, hiding under the train, not knowing what the hell was going on, fearing for their lives. Secondly, in a fight-or-flight situation, I used to work at a gym. I worked with personal trainers. I was a sales manager. I had people who were certified CPR and EMT, all that stuff, right? One day I was at the gym, and one of the people training had a heart attack on the sit-up machine. He had 6 stents on his heart, and I guess he pushed himself too hard. He fell off the machine, cracked his head open, and was bleeding on the ground face down, suffocating. All those EMT, CPR trained people were shaken. They were frazzled. They couldn't do anything. You know who got the guy off the machine and actually gave him CPR and called the EMTs? Me, the guy who was not trained in CPR. I was not scared at all. I just knew I had to act in the situation. His wife showed up. She was on the treadmill, had no idea that her husband had just had a heart attack on the other side of the gym. It wasn't until the ambulance arrived and pulled him out on the stretcher where she realized that it was her husband. And the whole time, all these so far trained people who know how to do this were crying, shaken up, had to seek therapy, had to see medical, mental health, all that. Not me. And this is not me tooting my own horn. I'm just saying, like, even people who are trained in these things fall short when a situation actually meets them face to face. And as far as like fight or flight in these situations, I've actually been trained or taken a course in situations like this, in fight or flight, where you have to defend people and actually have a weapon and attack a shooter and be able to actually differentiate a situation between a shooter and a hostage. So, and I don't mean this in any disrespect. So when I'm saying this, I'm speaking from experience. Someone who's lived through these things and has been there hands on. And I've seen other people do the other. This is why I asked you earlier. It's like, I think it's easy in theory to say these things, but when faced with it, I realize people act very different.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, everybody in these situations, like everybody's gonna act differently. Some people are gonna be passive. Some people are gonna take steps back. Some people are gonna be active and try to help, right? So, but again, you know, if people don't have the option to defend themselves or anything, you strip that option away, no one's gonna be doing anything. They're all gonna be running away, right? Or they're gonna put their lives on the line.
I think you increase liabilities by doing so.
I mean, I would say it may be increasing liabilities, but, you know, you're saving more lives that way, right? But
so that's a chance you're willing to take with human lives?
See, right. So, I mean, again, the point is we want to save lives, right? Like, you know, like and again, if your life's in danger, you know, you're definitely not thinking about liabilities in the moment, right? I mean, that's something to consider for sure. But, you know, when you have split-second decisions, your life's in danger, you got to do something, right? And stripping your only way of defense is just really not a good option, right? And the story you talked about, you know, in New York with the gun in the subway and everything, right? You know, I applaud that guy for you know, taking his gun and shooting him, you know, because he took out his gun and it was not justified for him to take out his gun because there was no deadly threat to him. You know, if there was punching or whatever, that's not deadly threat, right? That's
He took the guy's gun.
The shooters.
Yeah.
Right. So like so they were fighting, right? But then one guy took out his gun, right? So that's not justified. There was one gun. There was no deadly threat. Took out a gun. That's not justifiable, right? So then that guy, so
I think you're getting caught up on the justifiable. The fact is, he thought he would be able to defend himself because he was armed, not to only have it be used against him.
Even though he took it out first.
So even though...
Right. I mean, I pray...
Exactly. So even if it's justifiable or not, he armed his opponent and assisted him in killing himself.
Right, and that's a good thing in that case because he wasn't you know, you don't pull out a gun when your life's not in danger. So he's in the wrong. He would have if he would have used that gun and killed him, that he would have that's murder. That's wrong, right? So I'm glad the other guy defended himself by being able to take his gun and use it against him, you know?
But I think the point is that could happen like to you.
Okay, yeah, sure. Right. Now that's where the you know, training comes in from. So anybody who owns a gun should get training too. It shouldn't be a requirement, right, to get a gun to get training, but everybody who chooses to carry should go through training themselves. They should want to, right? So in that part of that training includes like the 21-foot rule and things like that, and when not to draw your firearm, right? If you're too close to somebody, you're not going to draw. That makes no sense.
Yeah,
right?
but if the person that you're battling, I say that word because I don't want to make it real, if they're not following the rules, then what?
Oh no, when I said 21-foot rule, that means it's not like a rule. It's a rule for your safety, right? 21-foot rule means if somebody with a knife or you know, a handheld weapon or even fist, right? That's 21 feet is the distance they could get to you before you could draw your gun and fire for a shot.
Yeah, but if they're on a subway,
yeah,
the other guy's not following that rule.
Right.
He pulled it out.
Also, do you really think people are counting 21 steps of distance between them and their supposed killer?
Right, just like driving, it's you pretty much use your judgment, right? So you know generally what 21 feet is. Maybe not 21.556, right? But you know generally what 21 feet is. You know,
I mean, I guess Chris has a point that, like, and I pray that George never is in a situation where he's gonna have to do that.
Yep.
But there can't actually really be an honest, like, not honest, but like a real answer to this unless he's in a situation like that. Same thing with, like, video games, right? Like, I don't play video games, as you guys hopefully saw on my YouTube already. But the video games that I have played, right, aren't like first-person shooter games. You actually can't even shoot your own team. Like, you can shoot them, but nothing happens to them.
Depends on the game. Right,
so that's some games, or most games, whatever. So it's like, those aren't even obviously nowhere close to being like in a real-life, you know, threat situation. Not that George said anything about that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Also, George, I just think you, and I appreciate it to an extent. I think you live in an idealistic world where ideally everybody would do the right thing. You said earlier that people should want to have training in order to better protect
But he doesn't live there,
right?
Right? Because he's like, I want to protect myself and my friends and family, so I want to carry in case a bad guy comes into my circle.
Exactly. So, but think about that with that statement alone. You want a gun in order to protect yourself from a bad guy, but then you also want to arm everybody, including the bad guys that you don't know are bad guys.
Again, bad guys will arm themselves no matter what we do. That's, you know, that's the kind of, like, by definition, they're criminals, right? By definition, they don't follow the law. If they want to do something, they will do it. It will happen. And, like, they kind of like living in the idealistic world, it's kind of like the other side is doing that, right? People want to get rid of all these guns for everybody, but in an ideal world, that works. In an ideal world, no one kills anybody, right? That's like the utopian, right? But the reality is, people will do bad things when they want to, and they do. So,
well, I think in an ideal world also is that putting more guns on the streets will save everybody, right? But here are the facts of, like, the world that we actually live in. Going back to what you said before, you said everyone should be able to carry after they pass mental evaluation, have a license to carry, and they should want to train themselves in order to protect themselves and keep themselves safe. I disagree with that. I think it should be mandatory for you to go training and hold your gun at least twice a month. I think you should also have mental evaluations, if not once, twice every year, because things change. You may lose a child, your significant other may die, you may lose a pet. All these things play a role on your mental state. But also, I think it's very idealistic to say that people should want to train themselves. Do you know what the obesity percentage is in America?
Yeah, there's no self-discipline
These
here
people
at all.
should, yeah. So people should want to be in good shape, to keep their health safe, but they choose not to. And now you want to put a gun in these people's hands who already are irresponsible with their own health.
Yeah, you got another point too, because you only have to pass a driving test once. Then you have it for the rest of your life. Same with, like, passports in a sense, right? Like, they expire because you have to get a new picture, but, like, it's never like you have to, like, apply for another one. And those, I mean, driving licenses should also be, like, reevaluated.
I would agree with the driver's license, you know, for sure, because, like, you know, driving is a privilege, right? And the only reason I say, one of the main reasons that I say that, you know, these, like, I don't think that even the mental psyche eval should be required, right? You know, because, like, gun shop owners, they could deny you a firearm if they think that you're going to use it for something bad, or if they think you're incapable of handling one, mentally, physically, whatever. They could deny you, and they see it. You know, they're not dumb, right? But
yeah, they are. Some of them are. You just saw P. Diddy's apology. You think some people aren't like, oh, he did a good thing. I mean, we were like, what the hell? But you don't think some people believe that?
No, I'm sure they did. But I'm in general, like, to be a gun owner, usually, you know, it's pretty strict, and they're, from what I've seen, they're very, very responsible, very smart. You know, they know what they're doing, right? Now, I haven't been to every gun store in America, but from the ones I've been to, and I've been to a couple, that's what I've observed. But aside from that, right, owning a gun, like firearms, this is our right. So we shouldn't have to go through all these restrictions for something that is a right. Otherwise, you're just infringing on the right, right? So that's
but
one
the
of
right isn't so that we can kill each other.
No, of course not. The right is to defend our country. It's the security of a free state from tyrannical or international governments. The self-defense and the defense of others is a bonus, right? The true intent of having firearms is to protect ourselves from other governments or domestic governments.
I guess what I'm still caught up on is like, and don't laugh, even though I just laughed at myself. But would Jesus and his disciples carry guns?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably, yeah, I'd say so.
Really?
I mean,
That's
they
a crazy
carried swords.
statement.
Those were the guns of the day back then. Peter carried a sword.
Wasn't Jesus known for saying that if someone slaps you in the face, give him the other cheek, not pull out an AK-47?
Right, but that's not saying if someone's ready to kill you and your family, you like just let them do it, you know?
Jesus carried a sword?
But his disciples did.
What wasn't Jesus nailed to a cross after being beaten in public and then having to wear a crown of thorns and then carry that very same cross and then nailed to it? People were trying to kill him.
But,
right,
and I believe his last words were, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Yeah, but that's Jesus Christ. Like, that's why I said his disciples. Like, I'm not saying...
I know, but shouldn't we all strive?
I mean, we should strive, right? But, like, no one's perfect. He already knew that. Even if we strove to do that, like, I'm sure 99.999% of us would pass out before we even got to carry the cross, just from the pain alone. So, like...
right, and he chose to lay down his life. That's the biggest difference, right? Like, there's no reason for you to lay down your life for someone.
I get what you're saying, yeah, but that example might have been a little off-putting. But the disciples, though, like, those were the people that were closest to Jesus, trying to be most like Jesus, probably were, like, the saints, like the saints. So, like, that's what I'm saying. I know the one guy carried a knife, but then wasn't Jesus like, you don't need this? Right,
if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's what he said, right? So you should, and he's right. Don't live by it.
What?
Right, but Peter used his sword.
You guys stepped
right,
in
Peter
it.
used his sword not to, to defend Jesus, but Jesus was willing to put down his life there, right? So that Jesus didn't want him to do that. So, that Peter wasn't supposed to do that, right? But if someone's trying to kill Peter's not the one. He's like, I need to be crucified. No, and Peter would be justified in stopping them. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had done that before.
So, just to get this clear, right? Peter was the only one with the sword, or?
I mean, I don't know if the other disciples carried swords. I'd have to look into that, but Peter definitely did.
Yeah. I'm also not trying to like pick apart the details. I'm just curious. So, like, if there were guns back then, you're saying that at least Peter would definitely have one on him.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
But the other ones, so there's 12 of them, so 1 out of 12 would have it.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I don't know if the other ones carried. I'd have to look into that, but I wouldn't be surprised again if they did. I'm assuming they probably did.
Alright, so this is in Luke 22, 36 to 38. Jesus tells his disciples to sell their cloaks and buy swords because he is about to be arrested and crucified. The disciples take him literally and say they have 2 swords, but Jesus tells them that's enough. However, some interpret this to mean that Jesus is speaking figuratively about persecution. The disciples misunderstand Jesus' figurative language and may have come to think that swords are necessary to defend them from the adversaries they will face wherever they go. So Jesus wasn't actually literally telling them to buy swords.
And that's where...
That's a misinterpretation.
And that's why I don't mean to go back to this, but that's, again, like, if you... And it breaks my heart that you think that it's super possible for you to be in a situation where, like, your life is literally on the line, someone's going to have a gun to your face, and you're going to save yourself with another gun. I mean, that breaks my heart. Anyway, but, again, like, are you actually willing to kill somebody?
If my life's on the line, yeah. But there's a lot of more situations happen without guns, right? Like, this is something to bring up too. Someone most likely they're going to have like knives or something. It's going to be like maybe 10 of them, 4 of them against you. That's overpowering you. That's you're in imminent danger. Most of the time, it's not with guns, right? So, and you definitely having a gun, it definitely equalizes the playing field, right? So, but aside from that, right? It's kind of not off topic, but like it's just something to think about, right? Like thinking about cars. Like, I don't know if you knew this, if you guys knew this, but cars are used. Like, there's more cars that are used to kill people and homicides than there are guns that are used to kill people total, right? So why aren't we having the conversation of we need to get rid of cars? Like, and even though having a car is a privilege, when more cars are used to kill people, and what do we do instead? We educate people on how to be safer with cars, and we actually hold the people accountable that are actually trying to kill people with cars. We hold them accountable for their actions. When people, you know.
But there are also much more restrictions with cars as well. You have insurance.
You did say something interesting though about neutralizing it, because I don't know though, because if a guy came up to you and threatened you with a gun and you were unarmed, there's a chance he would be like, oh, this, you know, I shouldn't do this, what am I thinking? And there's also a chance that, you know, if he walked up to you with a gun and you pulled yours out, he would shoot you immediately.
That's called drawing from the drop. You should never do that, right? Drawing from the drop, bad.
But like you said, criminals don't follow these rules, so it doesn't matter.
No, it's a rule to keep you safe, right? Like, drawing from the drop is huge. It's when someone has a gun on you, pointed at you, they're looking at you, you don't have enough time to draw. That's called drawing on the drop. You shouldn't do that. Now, it's either you have one or two choices, right? He shoots you, or if you know he's definitely about to pull that trigger, then you better pull it out. You have no other choice. Or if you wait for a chance, he looks away, that's your chance to pull out and fight back, right?
Yeah, but again, if that happens and you pull your gun out, he sees you have one now there's no reservations in his mind and he's going to shoot you no matter what he was contemplating before.
Yep.
But...
yeah, because you've put it in his mind is now him or me.
So you better take that shot. The only reason you should take... anybody. Well, yes, you. Hopefully you, the defender. Hopefully, they, you know, but that's the only time you take your gun out, right? If you're going to use it 100%. So,
well,
right?
I mean, I guess I get what you're saying, because in neutralizing the same thing with a car, if a car hits a human's most likely going to die. Mm-hmm. But if a car hits another car with a human inside it, then you've neutralized the situation. Both people have cars. Then now you have a car accident, some injuries, and not necessarily a death. But of course, that, you know, the factors are, there's millions of them. Same with the gun. But I guess the thing is, the people that...
but they're also called accidents.
Right, but people do,
yeah,
again,
but the people that do it on purpose I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's more homicides with cars.
Yeah.
Like, if I tried to, like, hit you with my car, if you were already in a car, I probably wouldn't kill you, Chris. But if you were on the sidewalk and I was fucking crazy, you know, good luck. But...
no, I hear what you're saying. I just want to clarify, because you're saying there are more homicides with cars. And if that is true, that doesn't mean they are all intentional. Homicide can also be accidental. You kill someone with your car by accident. That's why they call them accidents. But arming yourself with a weapon is the only reason for that weapon is to intent to defend and kill.
I don't want to use that verbiage,
only
because
purpose.
there are accidental gun deaths as well.
For sure.
But
no,
I guess
agree.
what I'm trying to
Okay.
say is,
That's fair.
back to like the mental eval. If someone has a gun and they're attacking you, they've already probably made it up in their mind, right? So whether you have a gun or not, it's not really neutralizing the situation. Having a gun and showing it to them for whatever is just going to anger them even more. Because I don't see anyone in a car with like road rage, like, oh, you have a car? I thought you didn't. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then hits them. I'm just more afraid that like these people that are like willing to kill someone, like close up with a gun or whatever it is, I feel like it's not going to be like, oh, you got a gun too? Oh, no, let's talk, bro. Because you got a gun too, let's talk. Like, I feel like if you don't have one, then they'll be more susceptible to listening to you because you're not a threat. So these people, you're playing with psychological like disturbances right now. You're not playing with logic at all.
Right, unless it's a criminal, right? Like, I mean, not like a gang-related violence, which is where most gun violences happen. They have a reason for shooting. There's just gang-related shootings aren't for just shooting random people, right? There's a purpose, right? So if you get caught on that, right? They have logic, but if someone has a gun, I usually don't. You know, usually people don't just try to talk to them. They don't want, you know, they kind of just stop them because they're still not going to listen. They have a purpose. The mentally sick people, like you said, no logic. They still have a purpose, no logic. They're going to do what they want to do, right? So people who want to do what they want to do, they want to kill people, they're going to do that. They're not going to listen. There's no turning back, you know, for them.
So you think they'll listen if you pull out your gun? They're like, you're going to listen now?
I mean, yeah, they'll listen when I put a couple rounds in them. So
I disagree with that 100%. because I have seen countless videos of bodegas and stores who've been robbed at gunpoint.
He just said they'll listen when you put a couple rounds in them.
Yeah, their body will listen.
I heard. All right, so there have been countless videos where people have been robbed at gunpoint, and they've de-escalated the situation just by giving them the money in the cash drawer, and nobody was hurt. But the situations where gunfire goes off is when the other person pulls out a gun. Then it escalates. You're not even de-escalating the situation. You're like, oh, you escalated? I'm going to escalate it further. And that doesn't help anything.
What I'm afraid
because
of.
even in a situation
that's for your safety,
when
right?
you're talking about the school shootings, fight or flight, right? I think we keep getting caught up on this fight aspect. And for you, it's like, oh, if I'm in a situation
fight is the last
and the dude's
resort.
But hear me out. If you're in a situation and you see the dude with the AK, going back to the example you said earlier, and he's not even looking at you, your first response was, let me take the shot. Instead of, he's not looking, let me evacuate everybody now that we're safe. That should be the first response. Get everybody in safety first before you start engaging with somebody again. Because who's to say that you take that shot and that takes him out? That kills him right away. That you're perfect. Headshot. Boom. He's done. You might shoot him once. He turns around. Brrr, now everybody's sprayed up. What are you going to say now? Oh.
Right, yeah. If you have loved ones, you're in the situation, you get them to safety first, you come back, right? So if you're willing, if you're a cop, that's your responsibility. If you're just a gun owner, that's not your responsibility to engage. Like, you should, I would, in my opinion, but it's not your responsibility, right? So, like...
But you said that you would.
I would. But if you were there with me, I wouldn't say you need to help me. Like, I would say you're fine.
Yeah, but Chris is saying if I was there with you and the guy has a gun, you wouldn't make sure that I was gone before you started lighting him up?
I would. I would be like, all right, what are we doing? You'd probably run away. I would, and expecting that situation, you'd probably bolting it. Like, okay, good, she's gone. Engage, right? But...
And then what am I going to do? I bolted and then I find out that my brother also got shot and I have to go back in the mall and identify his remains? What's wrong with you?
No, like, it's just, like, obviously if there's nobody in the mall, right, then I'd run away too, but if there's a bunch of people there, again, it's a mall, there's lots of people walking around, he's about to use the gun, I would try to stop him before he shoots anybody. That's
but
real.
Is that heavy on you assuming?
No.
I think this is where you and I differ, George, because, I'm sorry, because that situation where you just explained, if it was me in that situation, I had Alexia and a couple people with me, you know what my first instinct would be if that person was down the hall or on the other side of the open field in the mall and I was able to get Alexa and everybody out to safety? And I was like, okay, I'm not going to go back and save everybody else, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to distract him. So what I would do is I would evacuate everybody, like, all right, guys, get out, he's not looking. And when everyone's gone, I would then fire 2 rounds in the air to get his attention so he turns around and think there's fire coming from there, and I would just dip. Now I've given time to the people on the other side to be able to evacuate, hopefully, instead of engaging him one-on-one. Because now I've changed his attention because he has gunfire behind it.
Excited to kill
Not
somebody?
realizing.
No, but like see, that doesn't work. I mean, why do you think police officers never do that? They shoot in the air to distract? No. Like that I can't see a situation where that's working.
Well, let me ask you, Chris. How many fights or like situations like that, minus the gym one because you already revealed it, have you been in?
Like physical fights?
Yeah.
Like 13.
And how many of them had weapons?
3.
And were you armed as well?
No. I had one, someone pulled a knife on me, someone used an aluminum bat, and someone actually did pull out a gun on me.
And what did you do? Just start praying?
These things,
I don't mean to make fun of you.
No, that's fine. No, I just had to act on the situation. That's just it. I don't know. I want to be careful with my words because I don't want people to perceive it like I'm talking big of myself because at any moment I could fall and I could fail. But I have very good situational awareness.
But that's exactly what I said before. I pray that George is never put in those situations. So I think, both of you have. But
I also think to my character, I've experienced a lot of things that I'm not easily shaken. Yeah. And I can't say that for everybody.
And again, I really hope that my brother never experiences those things, even though it's just going to give him experience or wisdom if he survives them. But, that would suck. I would never want him to go through that. But, yeah, as of right now, it is like an idea. It's almost not fun to talk about, but, would you agree to some extent that, it's easier said than done? I don't want you to be in the situation, but if you were, when we had another, like, podcast following up, I don't know, I feel like your responses would be a little bit different. Maybe not drastically, you're not going to change your mind, but...
Sure, I mean, in the situations we talked about specifically, that's what I would do, but every situation, so no one situation is the same. I can't say what exactly I'll do, but I could try to plan it out with my family, what I would be willing to do, what I would be willing to put at risk, you know, to save myself or others, right? Like, what...
Your life?
Right, like, I mean, yeah. Like, you know, if it's to save people I love, I'm definitely putting my life on the line for loved ones for sure. That's without a doubt. Again, if I'm in danger, well, I'm in danger. I'm doing something. For other people, I think I would, you know, like, I would probably risk my life too to save other people. I
mean, I would die for certain people as well, but I don't know if, like, my way about that would be like, oh, I gotta carry a gun.
Right, and it's not like I'm I'm like, oh, let me sacrifice myself. It's me, let me engage this person, and the idea is to stop them, right? But there is a chance where I might not make it, right? But it's not just like I'm not just a human shield. Just drop the gun. It's like, all right, take me, you know? Like, I'm not doing that. I would not do that because that would make no sense. That wouldn't do.
So you won't go down without a fight. But like you said, every situation's different. So like, I don't know, maybe a majority of the time, if there's like a shooter, you know, like they wouldn't be doing that unless they had something like severely mentally disturbing them. They need help too. Mm-hmm. They don't need a bullet in the face. They need someone that's going to listen to them.
Right, sure, but do you see how many people that shooter's helping in that situation?
But that's not what God calls us to do. We're not like, oh, you're not helping me, so fuck off.
Right, that's why we call it a God-given right? Like, to protect ourselves, because that's why it's built into us, into our biology, into us. God put that into us. It's to defend ourselves naturally. We don't have to be taught to defend ourselves, right? So it's a God-given thing. It's a God-given right to defend ourselves.
We do have to be taught to defend ourselves. There's a difference between, like, instinctually wanting to be alive, you know what I mean? Like, survive. Mm-hmm. Survival is different than being trained on how to, like...
Right, how to defend yourself is learned, but the natural, like, needing to defend yourself, needing to live, that's what's natural in us, right? That comes from defending
survival.
Yourself. Right, sure. And that comes from defending yourself. How do you survive in situations like that? Through defense. That's natural. No one just says in that situation, it's like, oh, I need to go die now. You know, that's natural for me to just. No one says that, right? It's natural for us to die. Wait.
I think most people ideally do not want to find themselves in that situation, but you should be prepared for it just in case. But in the examples that you have illustrated to me, and I could be wrong, but you seem very eager to want to engage, to want to kill somebody. Because I've never heard you say, I would just flee. I mean, have you heard the saying, like, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war?
Sure.
You know, it's that same thing. It's that, like, all martial artists learn this. My best friend Emmanuel, I think he's like a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. You would never know it by looking at him. He seems like harmless.
You know who else is a black belt?
I spar.
Yep.
Okay, so speaking of martial arts, then you know, then when you learn martial arts, they always tell you, like, do not engage in a fight. If you can do anything that you can do, run first. Avoid a fight at all costs. That's what they tell you. They don't say engage in it because you know how to do it. You got a black belt. Go show off.
Right, but those examples pertain to when it's only you in danger. So yeah, of course, if it's only me in danger, I'd run, right? Of course. But if there's other people in danger too, I don't think I would, right? Because again, I want to protect these other people. I don't want just innocent people to die. If it was me alone, and yeah, of course I'm running, absolutely. You know, even if I'm alone, I point a gun at the person that has a gun and they run away, I'm not going to follow them and shoot them. Okay, they ran away, great, you know? But like, if, you know?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I think it's nuanced. Like, I'm just saying, like, if I was inside my house and someone came to my house with a shotgun or whatever, and I got a 45 upstairs or in the basement, and I got my family with me, my first thing when I see what's going on, obviously, is fight or flight, grab the gun, right? And assess the situation. But also make sure I'm aware where every single member of my family is, and make sure that they're in areas where I'm sure they can be safe first before I engage this individual.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's always going to be my first priority. I'm never going to be like, all right, I'm going down to stay upstairs. I'm going to go shoot this guy. I'm going to be like, no, guys, everybody here, get the girls. Okay, everyone's good. All right, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to find out what's going on exactly. Guys, go out. Once you get my signal, hop out the window, get out the house. And if everything goes well, I'll meet you there. Because I won't be able to operate or perform efficiently if I'm worried about everybody else in the house. My first responsibility is to get everybody to safety first.
Yeah.
And if I can join them, sure.
I mean, I would take that even a step further in a home, right? You know all your family members say are upstairs, they're all safe, you know that. You have your gun. I wouldn't even bother going downstairs. If it's just property, let it be. You don't have to risk anything. It's just property, right? If they come up the stairs, then you could put a couple rounds in them. But if they're taking property, I would say don't do anything. It's just, you could replace property, right? So let them do whatever downstairs, then they leave. But if they come upstairs, then yes, that's bad.
I agree with that. I guess just to wrap this up, because we can go on and on and on about this. And look, I'm not, super well versed in this. I have other friends who actually do own guns regularly, train, shoot, all that stuff. But and maybe I could try to get one of them on the podcast. But my view as far as weapons, I believe everybody should have a gun when it comes to their own private property. So when it comes to your home, and maybe if you're on hiking trails where there's public, but there's space, and it isn't congested. I think these are areas. So like, for example, your sister, if she's out hiking and she's by herself, you don't know who you're going to run into on a trail. So I think, she should be able to carry in that situation. Yeah, but do I think she should be able to bring that same gun to Six Flags or Disney World or to the movie theater or to school or to Walmart or to Target? Hell no, you crazy?
I would say that's where your life is more in danger in those areas, especially like shops and stuff.
But my point to that is, if no one is able to bring a gun to those areas, then everybody's safe. And the only place you have to worry about protecting yourself is at your own home. Ideally, that would be the ideal situation for me. But I think everybody bringing a gun everywhere just in case is crazy. I think that is crazy. I think you're asking for more trouble. And as far as people thinking that more guns is the solution or you want a gun to protect the people, that's what every vigilante has ever said.
Right, but then you remember like the soft target talk, right? Like anywhere there's guns not allowed, like in schools, that's where shootings are more likely to happen because no one's able to defend themselves, right?
Yeah, and that's why I go back to what I said. I think that's a government issue. You said, okay, it's going to cost a lot of money in order to get security and the metal detectors and blah, blah, blah. I think it's a good investment if it's going to save human lives.
That's why I'm saying, like, a heavy psych eval, But, again, that's not really going to save the instances either. But, like, you shouldn't just be giving a gun to anyone. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So anyway,
George, this was
is there anything else you want to say?
No, there's probably a lot more, but probably not enough time here, but maybe next time.
So just really quickly, because I don't want to exhaust you guys. You wear chapstick, right?
No.
You don't wear chapstick at all?
Nope.
How? How's that possible?
I stay hydrated.
With what?
Water.
No, you don't.
I drink water.
No, you don't.
All I drink is water.
He doesn't drink water, you guys. Chris, you wear chapstick?
All I drink... Yes, and I drink a lot of water, and I still wear chapstick or Vaseline.
Do you understand how much chapstick we eat, like, annually?
Wow, that was not ready for that plot twist.
No, I was thinking about it because...
0 for me.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like I have to wear chapstick all day, every day, right? And if I don't have any on, like I put it on and then it wears off. I have to put it on again. But then I'm like, am I becoming dependent on this? And then there was, like, things coming out. The chapstick, the brand chapstick, literally puts things in the... I don't want to say the stick, because no diddy, but, like, they put things in their product that make you actually dry up and use it more, so that you keep using it, you keep paying for it. Anyway, the point is, we're eating a lot of this, I guess everyone except for George. And what's crazy is there's a lot of, like, nasty shit in there, and, like, surprise, like, everything is, you know what I mean? Like, food, everything in the grocery store, everything we put on our faces, everything we put, like, in our mouths has, like, some chemical in it that's, like, cancer causing and blah blah blah. But chapstick I, like, rely on, and there's like petroleum and other shit in there that we're literally congesting just by like talking or like licking your lips or eating while you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's such small doses that they're like, oh, it's okay, but it's not. Like, I just wanted to...
Wow. That change in tone.
Yeah, I just wanted to check on you guys with that. Also, I mean, if Georgia never wears it, don't ever wear it, because as soon as you start wearing it, then you're gonna start needing it. But I don't know how your lips aren't chapped, because
that's why, that's the same concept. That's why I don't wear Apple Watches or anything like that. I don't want to get dependent on it, right? I mean, a little too late with the phone, but like that's why I refuse to get an Apple Watch, things like that. Same thing. But
yeah, I don't have one either. But
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of those people where like after I take a shower, you know, like even when I leave the house, I gotta put on lotion. I gotta put on body lotion, facial moisturizer.
Yeah, but
like if
you
not,
have to pick the
I
good
feel
ones,
crazy.
like the unscented ones that are like more not even organic, but like have less chemicals in it.
not the lavender one.
Yeah, because
I mean, I even use a toothpaste that doesn't have any fluoride in it, because fluoride can cause cancer. So I try to be aware of these things. But, you know, I'm not going to lie. I am dependent on it. Like, even when I put on lotion, I put on face moisturizer, my lips feel like a little dry. And I'm like, damn.
yeah, but see, that's
like,
what I want to bring
put
awareness
some
to.
Vaseline
Like,
on.
America stays giving us chemicals and crap that our bodies are not even meant to digest or handle. And it's such small doses that we don't notice shit. But then when, like, our life expectancy drops, or, like, you know, we die at a young age, or et cetera, you can go on, or we get cancer, or, like, suddenly, you know, some new virus or new disease, it's like, oh my god, where'd that come from? Yeah, the things that we're ingesting, because America is putting garbage in our products. Like, and we're willingly putting that on our faces, in our bodies. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
And then the organic labels are like 4 times the price, and even then, half of those aren't actually organic. They also have the crap in it. So, food for thought, but don't eat, you know, food unless you grew it yourself. LOL. Don't do that either, because Bill Gates is gonna come find you.
Wow, this is it's taking so many turns.
I know.
Right now.
I'm sorry. I told you guys last time. That's how my mind works. It literally goes everywhere. But I mean,
welcome to Alexia's logic.
behind the struggle after hours. No. But yeah, I mean, there's really no way to like not consume these products, because we need to eat. But like, it's kind of crazy, like how much literal junk is in our junk food.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, there's it's almost unavoidable, which is extremely unfortunate. And I think the best we can do is to try to do our due diligence to be aware and conscious of the things that we're putting.
But even the water, like
And
tap
on our
water,
body.
has like nasty shit in there too.
Time to move to Greece.
Facts.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something, actually. Sorry, I hate to double back on it, but in Greece or these other countries, does everybody have guns over there, or no?
Not everybody, no. Certain people.
That's crazy, right? Because those are also the same places where they have the least amount of shootings.
Well, we're actually
incidences.
U.S. is number 26 for the number of mass shootings in the country, right? We're number 26, not even the top 10, and we have the most guns in the world. So,
Out of what?
out of all the countries.
Oh, by countries.
Yes.
Because
We're
you
we're
said
number
America in the
26.
country, and I got confused.
No, yeah, we're number 26 on the list of the number of mass shootings, I think, per capita or whatever, but yeah. Like,
Really?
Yep.
Let me double check this.
even, I don't know if you heard, but like France, a couple days ago, I think it was yesterday actually, they just had like a prisoner like break out of like a prison truck or whatever with machine guns, you know, and obviously guns aren't allowed in France, right? Heavy gun control, but these criminals full of machine guns, you know, popping them at the police and everything, and civilians, you know, bystand, you know, watching it and everything, but you know, gun control France has guns still, right? And nobody's there to. Police died. Nobody else had guns. Prisoners escaped. They're looking for them now, right? So.
Well, if not to harp on this again either, because I'm still hooked on the chapstick I'm eating. But like, the police died, so like, why do you think that you wouldn't if you were there? You know what I mean?
You might, but you know,
No,
like
you. You're the one that wants to, you know, save people and meet a shooter and.
The more people with firearms, the less likely these criminals are to escape like they did, you know? That's just like not like common sense, right? So like
it still sort of feels like this like blanketed like area where it's like, oh, let's just sweep it under the rug, give everyone a gun, and then people are going to be scared because everyone has a gun, but really like the problems that brings actually outweigh the solutions that it saves.
No, it's the opposite, I would say, you know? Like even in Australia a couple weeks ago, you know, literally a mass killing, not even a shooting, but that someone had just a large knife, killed 7 people in a mall because nobody could stop him. Until an officer came, 15 minutes later. You know? Like that's unnecessary, right?
But even if that were the case, right? There's what, 8 billion people in the world and you're only one of them. So like you're going to save this little tiny circle of NEPA that like you have privy to.
Yeah, this is why again, these people that don't have that past background checks, people who should carry, they should carry, so we have people around the world that could defend themselves and their communities, if you know, things like that, right?
But I think that speaks again more to like the mental health of these people that like obtain guns illegally or even shoot up any place. Like they need to be in a psych ward.
That's definitely the source. You know, the source is mental health has definitely decreased in the last 30 years, especially. You know, before 1999, no mass shootings at all, and we had all these guns. Gun
so
control,
instead of attacking the mental health, why are you so gung-ho?
No, we should attack. That's the source for sure. We should attack the mental health. But getting rid of guns is the opposite thing that you want to do. That's not attacking it. That's making the situation worse. That's all I'm saying. Mental health is the source, but for everybody else, the guns are the source. You get rid of guns, people are gonna, like in Australia, they're just gonna use other things: cars, knives, hands and feet. Hands and feet in the U.S. are used more to kill people than rifles are, right? Like AR-15s.
Yo, George, I don't know where you're getting your statistics from, but you are ill-informed. I'm looking at the statistics right now from the Wall Street Journal as far as mass shootings around the world. United States leads in 133. Second place is Germany with 6.
Yeah, I'll send you my source later if you'd like, but for sure.
Sure, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, what do you think about the gun laws in America and the rest of the world? Do you have one? What would you do in a situation? And
do you guys think more guns is the answer or less guns?
Or more education on guns?
Or all of the above? Dun, dun, dun.
Let us know in the comments below.
Also, what do you think Diddy's next move should be? Or, like, should we just sort of cancel him, like, literally, like, okay, you've had enough, goodbye. Good run.
And on a lighter note, do you put on chapstick or Vaseline on your lips? Or do you put something else?
Let us know in the comments.
Don't
forget to follow me on YouTube, Behind the Struggle, as well as my TikTok at Asexia. My IG, of course, is @_ wow, that's not my IG. My IG is @Lexia. @Lexia_Lou. Georgie, do you want to plug your IG or no?
Yeah, I mean, George Lucopoulos 1419 Instagram.
And well, you guys can find me and all my work at thisisceo.com. It'll lead you to my YouTube, my IG, everything. You want to find my movies, you want to find my music videos, my music, even this podcast, go to thisisceo.com and it'll link you directly
Side
to
note
me.
too.
Until then, y'all.
Side note too, George is not just a gun enthusiast, he's a semi-professional figure ice skater. So if you do choose to follow him on IG, you're going to see ice skating on your Explore page all over the place. And he's really good, so check it out.
And with that said, y'all have a good night.
Bye.
Peace.
See ya.